When I start developing the relationships of my Sims between each other, I actually start with the Sims themselves first. What I'd like to use to inspire real dynamic feeling characters is the Enneagram personality method. What I really like about it is it doesn't only give me insight into my characters' psyche, their fears, their motivations, but also sheds light on how they may interact and conflict with other characters and each other. There are 9 different types, and depending on how many Sims you have, it could be a lot of work to piece things together to determine, first of all, who is this Sim, what are their fears and motivations, and how does that conflict or have tension with another character, or maybe, they get along super well because of that. It can be a bit complex. So to keep things from getting overwhelming, I'm experimenting with ChatGPT to help me make those connections quicker and help inspire how I can explore those relationships in the game in a meaningful way that makes sense to who these Sims are as people. I think it'll be a fun way for me to find new ways to play while helping my Sim develop meaningful relationships in their community. So I've been playing with Keith Fox, who I've been introducing in my, past Simmer Diaries videos. He moved to Moonwood Mills initially, right before falling head over heels in Sienna, and then ended up settling down in Chestnut Ridge, where she lives. He made some friends along the way, though, and will become acquainted with Sienna's family soon. I could continue to develop these relationships in the game, but I want to do it in a way that makes sense to Keith's story, to his personality, as well as to the characters he's interacting with. And as you may know, the 3 traits or 4 traits a Sim has doesn't really give you much to go off of. They're usually pretty basic anyways. Like if you see here the Sims we're working with today, the only one that has really interesting traits is Lucas, who's a loner, gloomy, and socially awkward. The others have more or less often overlapping traits, which could mean that they get along, but yeah, they don't tell you too much about their personalities. And so to make their personalities more dynamic, I've associated a personality type for each of one of them. So for Keith Fox, I've decided that he's an enthusiast, a type 7 Enneagram personality type. I initially thought he could be an individualist. You'll find me struggling between the 2 personality types in a previous video, and I ended up choosing enthusiast in the end. I'll describe why later in the video, but it's just basically based on information ChatGPT gave me with his interaction with other Sims, and it was just so clear, okay, he's definitely not an individualist, he has to be an enthusiast, because that just makes more sense about who he is, who I thought he was already when I was brainstorming him, but also who he has grown into the little time I've already been playing with him. And Sienna Grove, so I created her backstory with my backstory creator, which I'll link in the description below. It was easy for me to just decide that she's an enthusiast. I think that fits really well to her. And Sienna Grove is basically the fiance of Keith. He had a great first date with her. He met her over Cupid's Corner, and yeah, it was sealed from that moment on. And yeah, soon after, he moved in with Sienna Grove in Chestnut Ridge, and they are now engaged to be married. Naturally, her family now becomes important to Keith Fox because they're his future family as well. And so we have Umber Grove, who is the brother of Sienna. He has himself a son called Ren. He also has another baby son called Louis, and here's his wife, Juniper Grove. So for Umber Grove, I decided on the investigator Enneagram type. I actually think I rolled that randomly when I was creating his backstory in the backstory creator. And I think it fits. So for them, a core value would be knowledge or understanding. And I think that could suit him quite well. And then we have Lucas Wolf, who has, as I mentioned, the only real interesting traits in this bunch: loner, gloomy, socially awkward. And I ended up choosing the Enneagram personality loyalist for him. That's type 6 personality. I think that suits him really well, actually, because the vices of a loyalist are anxiety and suspicion. They can be worrying, and they might need security. They are constantly on the search for certainty and reassurance in relationships and structures. And considering he's, socially awkward, and yeah, he just seems like somebody who would be a bit uncertain. So I think loyalist suits him well. And then we have Christopher Volkov, who, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't really played the lore in Moonwood Mill yet. I think he's the leader of the werewolf pack in Moonwood Mill. He's family-oriented, perfectionist, genius, domestic. I ended up choosing the reformer type for him because that is the type of a personality that would be perfectionist. He's also taken people in his home. So he's taken in a teenager and Lily, as you can see here in the overview. And so he seems to be somebody who would fit the reformer type because they have a lot of integrity, responsibility, excellence. So the helper, I was also thinking if it could be the helper type because they, have love, generosity, service, self-sacrifice. But considering he's a leader as well, I feel like reformer would fit him better. I mean, who knows? I might change my mind like I did with Keith, but I think he's the reformer type. It seems like that would fit well. And for Lily, I chose the challenger type. I just wanted to do something different from what I've done from these other Sims and keep it mixed. So we already have two having the same ones. We have, Keith and Sienna are both enthusiasts. And so I just wanted to try something also that would fit well to the reformer because I feel like Christopher and Lily might have like a love thing going on soon because they are attracted to each other. At least I saw Christopher was attracted to Lily in his relationship panel. So I thought that could be something one could explore at a later time. I feel like those two could work together. Considering Christopher, is a reformer, he wants to have integrity at the forefront. A challenger has the core values of strength, autonomy, and justice. So I think they would work well together. And so as you can already see here, I've also grouped these characters based on where they're from. So Sienna and Umber Grove are both living in Chestnut Ridge. We have Lucas, Christopher, and Lily. These are Sims that Keith met while he was still living in Moonwood Mill. And I think it would make sense for these guys still to be friends. Because if you look at this really cool map here that is from Strangest Sea that you can get on Reddit, Chestnut Ridge is quite close to Moonwood Mill. So they're almost neighbors here. And so in the grand scheme of things, looking at this map, I think it would make sense that Keith would still have a close relationship to his friends from Moonwood Mill. They're not too far away. And so I think that would make sense. Like, of course, if they were like in Henford on Bagley, then that would be a bit of a stretch because I like to imagine that the further away a world is, the more likely they'll have to like actually take a vacation there, time off, and actually have like a proper flight there because the distance is just so long. That's also another reason why I really love this map because it's great for storytelling. And of all the maps I've seen so far, this one for me mentally makes the most sense so far with where things are situated. I really like that Wyndhambrook and Henford on Bagley are here where, I kind of would imagine this is kind of maybe Europe. This Tartosa always gives me like a Croatia vibe, so it's here. And Wyndhambrook is Germany for me, Henford on Bagley, of course, the UK. We have Japan here, Mount Komorebi. This is kind of like Thailand. I think it just makes sense that, for example, Oasis Springs is so close to Chestnut Ridge, but also, of course, Willow Creek. So yeah, in general, I just really like this map for storytelling and to kind of like make sense of where my Sims are in relation to each other. And in this case, it pans out quite well because both the Moonwood Mill posse and the Chestnut Ridge friends are quite close to each other. So it would make sense that they could intermingle. But now let's brainstorm with the help of the Enneagram personality method how these Sims could actually interact with each other in a meaningful way. Like, what do their relationships look like? And so first, of course, I selected the Enneagram personality type for each Sim, and I introduced, what I ended up either rolling on randomly or what I chose based on who I think they are as a character. You can use their traits to help you. You can use just the way they look, their aesthetic. You could use any household description that's already in the game to jumpstart that. And again, I highly recommend using my backstory creator, which is a free Notion template you can use to randomize the personality and build out the rest of their backstory. But once I did that, now based on these Enneagram types, I want to better understand how these Sims would work together, how they would interact, right? Positively and negatively. So I asked ChatGPT to let me know 4 different aspects of interaction between my Sim, Keith Fox, and those other Sims in their life. So I wanted to know in regards to harmony, conflict, points of growth, and stress. I wanted to know these things to help inspire relationship dynamics that these Sims could have with each other, and ultimately also what would make sense for gameplay, right? You could just jump into the game and play normal and just see what happens, and that's what I also like to do in general as well, but I wanted to inspire gameplay that felt a bit more purposeful and unique to each character's personality. And yeah, like I said, I initially pegged Keith Fox as an individualist, but when I first spit all this information into ChatGPT, so I let ChatGPT know all of the characters, their relationship to Keith Fox, their traits, and their individual personality types, and then the information that ChatGPT gave to me just felt not like it made sense for Keith Fox. And funny enough, it was the fact that Keith Fox seemed very emotional in his relationships with these different characters. And he even seemed quite reserved in terms of what he would be willing to do and try, and in regards also to trying new things and new experiences. And that just doesn't match Keith at all. He's an adventurous sim. He is a sim that I have a whole bucket list full of things that are wild and adventurous for him to try. So that definitely didn't really make sense in the grand scheme of things. So for example, when mixing Lily Zoo with Keith Fox and just seeing what kind of combinations one could have there for growth points, it actually stated that Lily encourages Keith to embrace his adventurous side and stand firm in his convictions. And I feel like he doesn't need anybody to help him with that. He's very much knee deep in adventure. He loves it. He doesn't need anybody to push him to be more adventurous. So I sent ChatGPT more or less the same prompt, but this time with Keith Fox as an enthusiast, and that felt more aligned with who he is. And so I'm going to slowly uncover bit by bit what I got for each combination. So Keith with Sienna, Keith with Umber Grove for the different points of interest, and then I want to brainstorm with you here what ideas I have for gameplay based on what ChatGPT told me. So based on that spark of inspiration. So for Sienna Grove, ChatGPT told me when it comes to harmony that they both share a love for adventure and the outdoors, which strengthens their bond. They are both naturally optimistic and energize each other, and mutual spontaneity keeps their relationship exciting, which 100% I agree on. Already when I was playing with both of them, I felt like they were really kindred spirits. I mean, look, we have here very much similar traits. So he loves the outdoors, she does. She's a horse lover. He wants to have a ranch. He's adventurous. She's outgoing. I just felt like it really matched well. And so if I'm brainstorming things that they could do with each other, so I already have on the list, that they go hiking together. So basically, they should go on adventures together because I think they would complement each other well. So for example, Mount Komorebi, I think is a big thing they want to do together. Maybe even they could make it into their honeymoon, like an adventurous honeymoon. Another adventure would be, buying that house that they've been eyeing. So in the last video, I described about how I had a bit of a relapse and I was looking for the perfect home, or to be exact, the perfect ranch for these two. And we found something absolutely perfect, absolutely magnificent, and absolutely out of their budget. So that's going to be put on hold. And that's where they spontaneously also tried to apply for a loan. I think that's going to be a big adventure that they're going to go on, is building a ranch together for sure. A ranch and business together. And I think, with their optimistic and energetic personalities, they'll be able to push through also maybe the stressful moments as well. Points of conflict, let's see. So both may avoid addressing difficult emotions or responsibilities. Their shared desire for freedom could lead to a lack of grounding or practical planning. So yeah, we saw that with the beautiful home. They wanted it immediately. And so now we could look at maybe what are some ways that they could be standing in each other's way of getting that dream, right? And shared desire for freedom. So I could see it maybe being an issue with their wedding, with wedding planning, because maybe neither of them really puts a foot forward to do that. And that could further down the line be an issue. Like I said already myself, I want to put that on the back burner just because I want to play with them more and I don't want to actually focus on all of that just yet. I want to have adventures with them, stuff like that, them to actually have a life together before they get married. They already, jumped the gun with a lot of these things, moved in like after a day or so and are already engaged. And so I just want to push the brakes, but it might be a source of tension between them if they end up not planning the wedding. So I think that'll be something I'd like to explore. I'm not quite sure yet how this will look in gameplay, but I'm already thinking, okay, this could be a point of conflict. Maybe other people in their lives ask like, oh, why aren't you, why aren't there any plans yet? What's going on there? And that could maybe put a seed of doubt into their relationship if they really are, meant for each other. Of course they are, don't worry. But yeah, that could be something. And now growth points. So here it says Sienna can help Keith enjoy the present moment even more by sharing new experiences together, and Keith can encourage her to dream bigger and expand their horizons. And it's funny that it says this because when they were dating, it actually there was like this automatic prompt from the game where Keith or I don't remember exactly, like where Sienna asked Keith about her job, and like Keith encouraged her to try new things and stuff like that, and she ended up joining like the spy career or something. I was like, no. So I actually canceled that out, so she actually quit her job recently. He can encourage her to dream bigger and expand their horizons. So based on the household description, she owns the equestrian center in Chestnut Ridge, but I don't really like that because I do love playing pretend and everything, but she doesn't actually own a business in Chestnut Ridge. I checked in the panel, and you can't really own the equestrian center like maybe you could own a community lot or invest in it like you could in The Sims 3. And so instead, I want Keith to still encourage her to dream bigger and expand on her horizons. Maybe that is in terms of a ranch, but I think maybe also something for her personally. She is a horse trainer, also, according to the household description. Maybe she could start a school of some sorts. I think that could be fun. Like where she creates like a retail store where she can also offer training services. Like I think that could be something where I could combine the retail system from the game with her passion of loving horses and training. So maybe she could sell like horse things there, like I don't know, horse accessories. And at the same time, it's a location where she could approach potential clients to train their horses. I don't know how that would work exactly. Like I said in the last video, I haven't actually played too much with this pack, so I don't know actually logistically how it works to be a trainer, a horse trainer. I think that could be fun. Now, stress points. A lack of balance might lead to mutual burnout or irresponsibility. Difficulties arise when neither wants to face serious conflicts or make tough decisions. So that brings us back to the whole wedding situation, but I think there's another point of conflict here. I don't know if you already noticed, but they have a lot on their plate. They want, to build a ranch, have enough money to buy that ranch, actually. And now Keith is telling Sienna she should go for, big and start her own school. Now, that might be tough if they're juggling so many things, right? So basically, to sum it up, I think both are very ambitious, but I think that might bite them in the butt because, they're so outgoing and so just want to jump into new things that they might, not plan things out well. They might dive in too quickly, get in over their heads, and it could lead to burnout. Imagine both of them being on burnout. That'd be a strain, a certain strain on their relationship. On top of the fact that they also want to plan a wedding, right? That's not even listed here on one of the big things they want to get done. So I think that could definitely be a point of contention for these two soulmates. I think already I have some ideas where I could add conflict to the relationship, but also where they could support each other in their dreams and their goals. I think that'd be really fun. Oh, and actually, so Sienna can help. Well, yeah, I think also Keith wants to still pursue his music career. It's crazy. So there are so many things that they want to do, and I think that'll just be a lot on their plate. So we might have to make a decision there. We'll see. But I'll actually add that real quick here. So I just added that bit that he wants to succeed as a musician, so I don't forget that that's also on their plate. And now let's check out what ChatGPT gave me for inspiration for Keith's relationship with Umber Grove, so basically his future brother-in-law. So for harmony, it says Umber's calm, introspective nature balances Keith's high energy. Keith inspires Umber to step out of his comfort zone and embrace adventure, and Umber admires Keith's creativity. I was thinking it could be fun. Maybe Keith and Umber Grove go for a karaoke night. I could also see them going on like a one-on-one, adventure in Granite Falls to get to know each other better. I think that would be really fun. I already have here now like brainstormed. Keith will help Umber get out of his shell by going on a karaoke night, and Umber and Keith will bond over a weekend in Granite Falls. I think that'll be fun. So where do we see conflict now? So Keith's impulsivity might clash with Umber's need for careful thought and structure. Umber might see Keith as overly restless or superficial in his pursuits. So I could see them actually getting into conflict regarding Umber's sister, who he cares about a lot, right? He doesn't want to see her go down some wild goose chase, some path that'll, lead to some form of self-destruction. So he sees how, somebody matches his sister's energy, and so they're both going full throttle, and nobody's holding anybody back. And so he's going to be the voice of reason, seeing how, they have so much on their plate. And he's going to be like, you guys need to be careful. You know what I mean? Also, like, you're investing a lot of money in this. You're putting a lot of energy in this. it's a stress-free relationship, maybe be careful. So basically, Umber will express this concern that he has to Keith, and, he's going to be protective of his sister. He wants to make sure that, he knows that she's wild and, adventurous as well, but he thinks two people that are wild and adventurous is probably not a good thing. They just push each other further and further to the edge, right? And there's nobody watching out. So he's going to try to be that person. But I mean, that might also lead to conflict because his sister might not want to hear it, and Keith for certain maybe not either. And so we'll see how that pans out. So as growth points, Keith can learn patience and thoughtfulness from Umber's steady approach, while Umber can learn to take risks and embrace spontaneity from Keith. So I'm thinking Umber might actually end up getting involved in their business endeavors. So I could see him actually maybe getting involved with Sienna's horse school, helping her out there. And so he could maybe take the reins and be the person, the head of reason, and help plan things and make sure that things are well structured. So at least that big thing is, especially also because it's like his sister's project. So that's the one closest to his heart to succeed. So he really wants to help his sister out there. And he might actually, I don't know how much money Umber has, but he might actually take a risk and invest money in her business. We'll see. I don't know. But I think that could be, also, especially if he has money at stake, it could make him even more so concerned, right? And even more involved. So I think that could be actually fun to have him have that risk factor, right? And now we're on to stress points. So here it says, Umber's preference for solitude and introspection may leave Keith feeling bored or rejected. Keith's lack of focus might frustrate Umber's need for order. Maybe, with Umber now being part of the business, at least Sienna's business for sure, and he's taking on the management side of things, so the project management, but maybe also managing those too, because they can't manage really themselves in regards to all this stuff that they got going on, and they're impulsive, let's just jump into things without a plan. So maybe there's conflict there in Umber's management style and Keith just wanting to be everywhere all at the same time. And then Keith wants to bond, be buddy-buddy, but Umber is more of an introvert, and so it could clash. So I've summarized that there. Now on to Lucas Wolf. So he is an interesting character just because, of course, his traits are already quite interesting, and he's a loyalist type. So let's see what ChatGPT gave us for inspiration in regards to the harmonious aspects of the relationship. So it says here, Keith's optimism provides Lucas with encouragement and helps him see the brighter side of life. Lucas admires Keith's adventurous spirit and confidence. So Lucas definitely needs somebody in his life that's high energy because he's low energy. Nothing wrong with that, right? But I think they complement each other well there. And I think Lucas, indeed looks up to Keith because he's basically the opposite. And I think he sees how happy Keith is, and I think he would like to also have some of that. So I could see them actually going to Montgomery together for a snowboarding trip. So I know Sienna and Keith, I think they're going to go for a mountain climbing, a rock climbing trip. And I think Lucas and Keith would have a jolly time snowboarding. So that would be an adventure for Lucas. And in regards of conflict, so it says here, Lucas's cautious, fear-driven mindset may frustrate Keith's carefree and risk-taking nature. Keith might see Lucas's pessimism as draining or overly negative. So it might stress him out. He'd be like, dude, like, life is great, life is golden, look up on the bright side. And, Lucas sees the glass as half empty, Keith is the other way around. Maybe they're on that trip and Lucas ends up not really taking risks, and it just frustrates Keith because he knows how happy the guy could be if he gave things a bit more of a chance and took those risks. I also, Keith was on his first date with Sienna. He stumbled upon this other sim, and I thought she was so cute. So I think he might actually try to pair her up with Lucas, and that might end up being an issue, him trying to play matchmaker, and it might just make Lucas feel super awkward because he's socially awkward, right? And he might feel like Keith is being too pushy, and so that could lead to some conflict as well. So we have the summary there. Next, on to growth points. So Keith can teach Lucas to embrace life's uncertainties and have fun, and Lucas can ground Keith by offering loyalty and helping him think through potential risks. So I think, for one, after maybe, that bad first attempt, with Keith trying to pair Lucas up with his acquaintance, maybe Lucas gains the courage to just, go on a blind date on Cupid's corner and just see where things go, and somehow he changes his mind. So we have the blind date, but it also says Lucas can ground Keith by offering loyalty and helping him think through potential risks. So maybe Lucas, mindset wise, I think is a bit aligned with Umber, with, hey, plan before you play, though also don't always plan before you play. Sometimes just jump into it and have fun. In regards to The Sims, save files and all that good stuff, right? Okay. But in regards to life and big business decisions, maybe a bit of planning isn't so bad. By offering loyalty, so maybe Lucas lends Keith a hand in regards to his music business or in regards to the ranch. Maybe Lucas gives him a tip or something, has information that can help Keith there. Maybe Lucas can vouch for Keith in some way to get him an opportunity. Maybe Lucas is also in Keith's ear saying, hey, give Umber a break. He actually means well, right? So I think that's something. So there we have that summarized. And now on to stress points. So Keith might feel restricted by Lucas's tendency to worry or overthink, and Lucas might find Keith's spontaneity overwhelming or reckless. So I don't know what opportunity quite yet, but maybe Keith is offered some sort of opportunity that could be risky, I think, in regards to his music career. In his backstory, I think he turned down a travel opportunity in regards to music, and he regrets that. And maybe he gets another one, and Lucas is like, oh, maybe you should stay home because you got this business to run. But Keith's like, no, I don't want to make this mistake a second time. And so Keith really is like, dude, I wish you would understand me here. You know what I mean? I've made this mistake in the past. I don't want to make it again. And Lucas is like, dude, you really need to focus. And right now, I thought we were focusing on your ranch or, Sienna's horse school and maybe you getting married eventually. What's up with that, Keith? And so maybe that's a point of conflict. So there we have the summary. And now on to Christopher. He is a reformer, family-oriented, perfectionist, genius, and domestic. What does ChatGPT say on harmony? So it says Christopher's structured mindset can help Keith focus his energy on meaningful goals, and Keith's adventurous nature helps Christopher relax and embrace fun. So this is like the third person in Keith's court who's like, dude, have a plan. So I think like all these three, Umber, Lucas, and Christopher, like at the start of the year, they have like their resolutions list, and Keith's like, I'll wing it, it's fine. And like on all of their resolutions lists is help Keith make some goals. So yeah. And also Christopher is the leader of that werewolf pack. I don't know if I see Keith becoming a werewolf. Like, to be honest, that gameplay is pretty stressful. But maybe Keith still ends up being quite tight-knit with that group. And Christopher is, trying to help out the werewolves in the community. So maybe he brings Keith in to help him support that. Like, for example, here we have Jacob Volkov. He's a teenager that is in the household here, the Volkov household. So they're not related, I don't think. So yeah, I think Christopher just took them under his wing, because he's trying to be helpful and, he's like the stability in the community, so to say, according to the household description. And so maybe Keith also helps Jacob, since it says his adventurous nature helps Christopher relax and embrace fun. Maybe Keith, in relation to one of his businesses, multiple businesses, ranch that we want to have soon, the horse school, maybe he starts an event or hosts an event where he invites Christopher and Jacob. It's some sort of like adventurous kind of thing, and it helps. So Christopher helps him plan the event, and Keith makes sure that the event is like really fun. There's some sort of activity where Christopher would have to like go out of his comfort zone, maybe. So I don't know the details quite yet, but I think it's going to be some form of event. Maybe it has to do with Sienna's horse school that's, opening, and it's to promote that. Jacob will be involved, like everybody from the community will be invited, maybe people from even Oasis Springs and stuff like that, so from nearby worlds, so to say, or neighborhoods, regions. Something cool, big, adventurous could be part of that event, and then Christopher could be like, yeah, I'll try that out. And points of conflict. So Christopher is super perfectionist. That could clash with Keith being spontaneous and carefree. And it says also Keith might find Christopher's high standards stifling or overly critical. Yeah, Keith's not having it easy. Like, he's got all sorts of people in his life that's like, hey, pause, stop. You can maybe do this better. Keith is like, for F's sake, let me live my life. I've been doing fine this far. Maybe they have some sort of argument where Keith is like, yeah, you're the leader of the pack, but you're not the boss of me. Maybe it could also be in regards to Keith just struggling with Umber being his boss and his manager. And he didn't always, that doesn't always go smoothly based on what we've brainstormed. So maybe he lets a bit of that frustration out on Christopher in an inconvenient moment, like where Christopher's maybe given him some guidance and Keith just doesn't want to hear it. He's heard enough guidance from Umber, from Lucas, and now from him. He's like, shut the F up. I've had it, And that is like, oh my God, and Christopher's like, maybe Christopher doesn't have much tolerance for that kind of behavior, and it could put a strain on the relationship. And then, so for growth points, Keith can inspire Christopher to loosen up and appreciate imperfection. Christopher can help Keith channel his energy into disciplined, impactful actions. So maybe Christopher's support on that initial event and the way he set things up inspires Keith, because Keith maybe thought, events are a bit too much work and too hard to do. Maybe he's tried it in the past and just failed. But with Christopher's help on how to actually structure things, and also how much success it brought maybe to the horse school, and how much, it really helped with promoting it. Maybe Keith now wants to make events a regular thing, and with Christopher's help, he's able to do so without too much stress, and that's a disciplined, impactful action, right? It's impactful for the business. It's disciplined in the sense that there's like a set structure now with the help of Christopher, and maybe a few steps are left out, where Keith is like, dude, I just need to get this up and running. This needs to be sustainable for me, so I can't be having like a gazillion things to do every time I set up an event. But I think this modified, simpler version is fine. And Christopher's like, hey, you know what? That's right. That's true. Better done than, perfect. So I just added that. This also helped form a tradition in the community, because I think that's nice if you have traditions, not only in your legacy families, which I think is important to have like rituals and traditions, but maybe this type of event that ends up being a regular reoccurring event turns into a tradition in the community as well. Maybe a tradition that connects the regions, right? So we have Moonwood Mill and we have Chestnut Ridge, and then we have stress points. So we have Christopher's rigidity might make Keith feel constrained or judged. Keith's lack of focus might irritate Christopher, who values order and precision. Constrained or judged. I think that's interesting, because I feel like as soon as somebody feels judged, there's a sense of shame there almost, maybe, and somebody can clam up real quick if they feel like that. Yeah, maybe in one of these events or somewhere where Christopher is helping Keith, Christopher feels like Keith isn't taking things seriously enough, and he feels like he's just wasting his time at this point, and makes Keith feel almost like he's lazy or negligent, and Keith is just, he just finds it really difficult. It could be ADHD, it could just be issue with focus or whatever, but he feels shamed by it and by how Christopher's acting. Maybe it makes him retreat from the relationship a little bit. And now on to Lily Zoo, who, as I mentioned, she's part of this household here. So I can imagine that things that happen between Christopher and Keith will find very quickly to Lily as well. So she'll know, maybe points of anxiety and stress and tension between those two, and that might, she might be mixed in with that as well, though. So let's see. So in terms of their harmonious dynamic, they both share a love for the outdoors and adventure, which fosters a strong bond. So they have like that mutual understanding and passion. Lily's boldness complements Keith's enthusiasm, encouraging exciting experiences. So I think I can imagine them developing that buddy-buddy dynamic that's in the game. I don't know what it's called, but I think that'd be fun. So I will just write that down just as a pure gameplay idea. I think he might see a confidant in Lily, because she seems a bit more chill, right? We had investigator Umber, loyalist Lucas, and reformer Christopher that was all like showing their finger at him like, you should do this better, you should focus more. And Lily's like, chill, let's chill. She's like, here it says she's cheerful, gregarious. I don't know what's going to come now with the conflict, but I think she could become his confidant, right? She's also a bit older, wiser. And in terms of conflict, Lily's assertiveness might feel overwhelming to Keith, who prefers more playful interactions. Keith's tendency to avoid conflict might frustrate Lily's direct approach. Okay, so maybe Lily tells him like it is, where she's like, dude, okay, Christopher means well. Maybe you should really listen to him, And he's like, Lily, let's just chill. But I don't think she'd be I think she'd be that flea in his ear of reason, but I don't think she'd be as much of it as Lucas might be. And so actually thinking back to Sienna, right? Like they were having issues communicating about their wedding and feelings of freedom maybe being lost with a marriage. And so Lily's like, hey, you need to go out this head on, and you need to be open about that. You need to communicate to each other. And so while he maybe, wants to skirt away from the topic, anything that's uncomfortable, she's like, confrontation full on. And she's like, no, Keith, you really need to. Maybe she's gonna help him in regards to Sienna more. Where I feel like Umber helped him with Sienna in regards to just being protective of Sienna and help making sure that the business side of things were okay. Lucas and Christopher helping him with planning and stuff like that and structure. But I think Lily might help him a bit more also in regards to Sienna and their relationship there. I think she will be really a trusted confidant in that aspect as well. Growth points. So Keith can learn confidence and assertiveness from Lily's leadership, and Lily can embrace Keith's lightheartedness and learn to slow down and enjoy life. Yeah, I can see that. So Lily, again, would help Keith maybe feel confident to tell Sienna something that he is afraid maybe to tell her because he doesn't want her to think he loves her any less. But it's important to say, hey, freedom is really important to me. She's like, dude, I love freedom too. I won't ever hold you back. And they'll have a chat and it'll be all good again. But Keith will need that push from Lily to feel, confident to talk on the subject. Because Lily will say, no, that's really what's needed here. Believe me, I've been here for a while. I know these things. And Lily's an elder. Maybe she's been working hard her whole life. And Keith's like, you know what, Lily, you can chill now. Like, just enjoy life. Life's an adventure to be cherished. Like, we've already talked a lot about how Lily is helping Keith out. How is Keith helping Lily? How is he helping her grow? So she loves the outdoors. She's a foodie, gregarious, and cheerful. But he says, he wants to help her be lighthearted and slow down and enjoy life. Maybe he encourages her to retire. Maybe she hasn't retired yet, and encourages her to take a trip to a place where she can enjoy food. Like, maybe I'm looking at my Sims 4 map here. Maybe to Tamarang or Tartosa, somewhere where there's like a lot of really good food, I think would be nice. Now to stress points. Lily's dominance might overshadow Keith's ideas or autonomy. Keith's avoidance of difficult conversations might create tension with Lily's need for straightforwardness. We might remember from Keith's backstory that he was controlled a lot by his parents, especially digitally. Like, they had a lot of gadgets and stuff to record his every move. And so while he really likes Lily, maybe maybe she triggers a bit of that past in him. And so he's not digging that she's very, straightforward and maybe dominant in her ways. And yeah, Lily could also potentially just lose patience with Keith dodging her questions and making it difficult for her to move forward with certain things. Yeah, maybe this is a part where Lily can learn that about his past, actually. At first, he doesn't come clean because it's a touchy topic for him. It's a hard childhood he had, but then he ends up explaining what he went through as a kid, and then she understands maybe how some of her behavior kind of reminded him of that and how it made him feel. And it could, while it's a stress point here, maybe it's a point of where they could find each other and actually build a meaningful connection because of that vulnerability that Lily pushes him to that vulnerability a bit, maybe because at first he doesn't want to share things, but then he realizes, hey, I trust Lily, this is fine. And then she learns that about him. And so it maybe even helps him through that and his technophobia as well. So there we have that summary. And so look at that. We have here Keith with 5 different people in his life that are either important right now or will become very important to him. And I have so many gameplay ideas now that are based on the actual personality of these characters, or what, the Enneagram personality types at least would say about them. And it's so interesting now, like how I can already see also how these characters could intermingle with each other, not just with Keith, how it could form a meaningful community between and be the bridge between Chestnut Ridge and Moonwood Mill. So now I have so many ideas that I can use to help brainstorm their next endeavors in regards to the ranch. I didn't know it before, but Sienna wants to make a horse school. I didn't know it before, but Umber Grove was going to become part of this family business now. It's going to be Keith, Sienna, and Umber. Now I've also tied in other people from Keith's life who will, get involved with his successes, support him in various ways. Also, there are quite a few activities. Like, I knew Keith wanted to go to certain places and make certain trips, but now he'll make them with Lucas, he'll make them with Umber. It was really just with the help of the Enneagram personality types, a bit of ChatGPT, and then me riffing off of what ChatGPT gave to me to, come up with all this. And I can't wait to get started playing all these different ideas. I really feel like they're going to make Keith's relationships feel so much more purposeful.